Welcome to the Action Drug Rehab Hour here at your AM. I almost blew it there. Isn't that something? At your hometown station, KHTS AM 1220 and 98.1 on FM. I'm Cary Quashen. I am your host. I got Lance Curtis, which is our clinical director of Action Drug Rehab, with me today. And I kind of want to get into some stuff, but I will say this. We're going to do a lot of stuff today. We're going to talk a lot about fentanyl. And some of the reasons is because almost every drug today on the streets are cut with fentanyl. You know, and I know that in the last week here in Santa Clarita, I know we had 2 people that overdosed over at the skate park that had to be Narcan. I know that we had somebody this weekend that had to be Narcan. This is just what I know. You know, so it's kind of, and I know we lost a couple in the last couple months that overdosed. And so it's one of those kind of things that I don't think we could talk enough about. If you know somebody that's using drugs or a family member that is, I would suggest that they listen to the show, because on the second part of it, I'm gonna take this. I'll show you what I got here. These are what you call M30s, which is oxycodone. And I'm going to test these. This was taken from somebody that was taking oxy that came into treatment. And he's been buying oxy from a dealer, guaranteed that these were real. So I tested these pills in front of him, and oxy didn't even show. The only thing that showed positive was fentanyl. Is why this kid's so scared of going into rehab. So I'm going to actually test these pills on camera after the next break. So you might want to have people that are out there that are using watch that. But Lance, it's been terrible these last couple of years, hasn't it?
Yeah, the opioid use, the crisis is crazy. I call
pandemic.
I call fentanyl the new urban terrorist.
Yeah,
it's unlike any other opiate we've ever seen. It's extremely devastating. Opioids, in and of itself, are highly psychologically addicting. So you can get a person to detox, off of the opioids, but psychologically, the subconscious mind can never forget that feeling, how they felt. And the other thing, it dramatically increases the dopamine levels to just some unforeseen levels, and therefore the person feels obligated to use the fentanyl or the opiates just to feel normal. A sense of normalcy.
And that makes sense, because what we hear from almost everybody that comes in treatment, I don't use it to get high anymore. I just use it to be normal.
Yeah. And that's because the dopamine levels have been so dramatically elevated. Normal dopamine levels are like here. Someone who uses opiates, like the dopamine level, they get that spiked up here. Once it goes back down to there, they're not going to feel normal. The battle is definitely psychological.
Absolutely. But psychological with a terrible physical component.
That's true.
So when the amount of people that call us to come in treatment, here's how an average week goes for me. I'll speak to the same person, 2 or 3 people every week for about a month or 2 before I can get them into rehab. Mm-hmm. They'll call almost daily. I'll speak to them all the time. They're always saying they want to come in, and they just can't seem to get there. You want to explain why? I mean, I want to hear from someone else besides me.
Yeah, one of the reasons they can't seem to get there, they do not want to go through those withdrawals. We have some wonderful medications to help alleviate withdrawals, but the problem is you have to be off all opiates for a minimum of 3 to 5 days. And if you're not, if we were to give you, say, a Suboxone, buprenorphine, it would throw you into withdrawals. You would be dope sick. You'd be going through it violently. So that's the tough part. So they are fearful, extremely fearful. They know they have to go through those withdrawals to get the Suboxone, and they are fearful of doing that.
How do you explain those withdrawals? I guess the best way to say it is it's kind of like the worst case of the flu that you can imagine on steroids times 10.
Yep.
I mean, it's not going to kill you. Let's get it straight. Coming off of fentanyl or any kind of opiates will not kill you. You will feel like you're dying. You will absolutely believe you're dying, but you're not in danger of dying. Yeah. Coming off alcohol, that's another case. That's another story completely, because 30% of people who are coming off alcohol, if they're really alcoholics and they're really addicted to alcohol without medical attention, will lose their life.
Sure, they certainly will.
Fentanyl and opiates are different, but it's the most scariest part is we got medication. We could detox anybody from any drug. If you're having an alcohol problem, there's things we can do immediately. We can give you Librium and some other stuff that'll help you feel okay. You know, you're not going to go through medical emergency. If you're coming off of opiates in 24 hours, we can give you Suboxone. And you'll kind of we'll be able to wean you off of it, and you'll be okay. If you're coming off of fentanyl, it's a different story. Yeah. It's a little bit tougher. We do have meds, and we detox people off of fentanyl every day, but the difference is you have to wait a little bit longer before you can get your detox meds.
And the average addict just can't wait. You know, back in the old days, prior to withdrawal medications, addicts, some of them just seemed to be able to go through it. But again, the fentanyl is a different animal. It's 50 to 100 times stronger than heroin. Mm-hmm. So therefore, one might equate that the withdrawal may be 50 to 100 times worse than heroin.
Right. I was talking to a couple of people that actually came into rehab yesterday, and they're pretty sick today. They're waiting to get their Suboxone, but they got to wait another day. But the reality is, I was talking to this kid, and I said, you know, this is the drug that you're taking that is killing hundreds of thousands of people every year now. Mm-hmm. It is the number one killer of, they said, 18 to 45. It's actually 16 to 45 now out there for people. And the comment that he made to me is the same thing that I hear over and over and over again. He says, well, I have Narcan. Now, great. First of all, Narcan is a life-saving drug. And if you're on heroin or opiates and you go out and you're having an overdose, it'll bring you back pretty quickly. If you're on fentanyl, it's not going to be one hit of Narcan. It could take up to 4. And a lot of these people that I know, they might have 1 or 2 cans of it. That's it. So it's not going to be enough to save their life. And you know what's really crazy? If you're using and you overdose and you got Narcan, how are you going to give it to yourself? I know many kids, many young adults that have lost their life, and next to their bed was a bottle of Narcan, a can of Narcan. Yeah. If you're overdosing, you can't use it. So it's kind of one of those kind of things that is terrible. So here's the backstory. Let's talk a little bit about the backstory. Before the pandemic, every time you turned on the TV, they were talking about opiate. We had an opiate epidemic, and it was talked about in every radio, every TV station there was. Then COVID came and everything got pushed aside. Mm. So what happened is they were writing opiates or pain meds for everything. You walked into the doctor and you said, I have a backache. You got a prescription of 90 Vicodin or 90 Oxys or whatever it is. You went to the dentist, you got a prescription. And I'm not knocking doctors right now. You can't see pain. And if somebody comes in and they feel pain, the main thing a doctor wants to do is help you feel better. But it was an explosion. People were leaving hospitals that were on IVs for 3 days, given a bottle of Vicodin that said use 1 every 4 hours. Not going to compare to the IV.
Yeah, and the problem with Vicodin and those other opiates and opioids is that your tolerance dramatically increases very quickly. Mm-hmm. So you start out taking them as prescribed, and you do that for a couple of days, and it works fine. Then on that third day, the same dosage is no longer working, right? And you're literally forced to take more to have the painkiller to be effective. Right. And the problem with that is the more you take, the more your tolerance increases. And then it gets to a point where you can't afford to take the prescription medication, and that's when you go to the streets and fentanyls and everything.
Well, what happened, it got even crazier, because what happened is the DEA and the medical association said, my goodness, we're turning out addicts. The pills that we're giving out are physically addicted. You could saw the lawsuits, right? Mm-hmm. And so they stopped. They said, we can't write these prescriptions anymore. Used to be, if you had a backache, you went to the doctor, he'd give you a prescription of whatever, 90 pills with 3 refills.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they said, we can't do that anymore. So they stopped writing prescriptions. The DEA is watching the doctors. The doctors are watching each other. So that immediately stopped. Then the pandemic came in. Now, think it through for a second. Everybody has got a stay-at-home order. Things closed. What are addicts? They're social people, right? Mm-hmm. They like to be out and doing social events. Everything social stopped. Or they're loners that stay at home and drink alcohol. Yes. And take pills and don't leave their room. So the people had let's pick anxiety for a second. If you had anxiety and the pandemic came and you're alone, you're going to have more anxiety. Domestic violence went up. Just about everything you could think of. If you drank alcohol, the people drank more. If you use drugs, you use more drugs. But the problem is they stopped writing them. The doctors weren't writing prescriptions anymore. So the dealers, where did they get them? Most of the dealers would send people to doctors. They hit 5 or 6 different doctors every week or so, and the dealers would have all these pills, and that's where people got them. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, the doctors aren't writing them. The dealers don't have them anymore. The need is greater than ever, and there's no supply.
So true.
So what happened? China. Fentanyl. They were starting to buy it on the black web. You know that you can buy a pill presser on Amazon or on the internet for anywhere from $600 to $2,000 or $3,000, depending on how good of a presser you want. And you could press anything to look like the pill you want it to look.
Yeah, they're almost undetectable, Cary. The difference, if you put a Xanax next to a pressed Xanax, a lot of times you won't be able to tell the difference at all.
No. So what happened is the system got involved. It got a little harder to get them from China. So what happened is they all now are going to Mexico. So fentanyl has gone to Mexico. They're printing out thousands and thousands and thousands of pills, and they're flooding the market. They're coming into America that way. Now, let's look at it this way. If you're baking chocolate chip cookies and you put too many chocolate chips, they taste great. They're yummy.
That's right.
But the people that are duplicating these pills, making phony pills, they're not pharmacists.
Or chemists.
Or chemists. Or doctors. They're dope fiends. Or they're some kind of gangster.
Yeah.
I'll say that. So what happens if they, by accident, put too much fentanyl in a batch? You have what you call mass overdoses. DEA came out with a statement a couple of weeks ago saying that we are now seeing, and we're going to see many, many more mass casualties when it comes to fentanyl. Meaning 3 or more people will die at one time. And that's what we're seeing out there right now.
Yeah, we had that about 4 months ago over in Los Angeles. They had some folks who were using methamphetamine. There were 7 homeless people using methamphetamine, and they thought it was just methamphetamine. Turns out it was fentanyl. They all overdosed and died.
You know, we're detoxing people right now off of fentanyl, and they never used it. They use meth.
They had no idea, right?
No idea, and they're showing up positive for fentanyl, and they're having fentanyl withdrawals.
Right, and actually, fentanyl is showing up in cannabis. That's crazy.
People don't believe when I say that.
It's showing.
You are Action's clinical director. Right. You are a MFT. You're a licensed. Is this really happening?
Yeah, it's really happening. Yeah, people talk to me about cannabis. I said, well, I don't advocate you smoking cannabis, but if you're going to be purchasing, you better get it from a reputable dispensary, because fentanyl is showing up in everything, literally everything. The only thing I haven't heard it show up in is in maybe cough medicine or something, but they'll figure that one out.
Yeah, they will.
They'll put in everything.
But I can tell you this, and then we'll take a break. Everything you buy on the internet right now, Snapchat, Instagram, if you're buying a Percocet or a Xanny bar or an Oxy, you got 99.9% chance that it's fake, 99.9% chance that it's fentanyl, and at least a third, I'll make it better, a 25% chance of dying. That's how bad it is right now. And I know of, I don't even want to get there, so many people that woke up in the morning, checked on their children or their husbands or wives, and they were laying in bed dead. So this is not a game. It's a game changer, that's for sure. It even changed the way we're doing treatment.
Yep.
And it's a thing that we're not going to be able to arrest our way out of. It's not. I don't believe in conspiracy things, but I'm almost like you. It's like a freaking terrorism kind of deal, But it's get clean or die these days. Anyways, let's go ahead and take a break. This is the Action Drug Hour here on AM 1220 and 98.1 KHTS. Welcome back to the Action Drug Rehab Hour. I'm Cary Quashen. I'm your host, along with Lance Curtis, the clinical director for Action. He's co-hosting it with me today. It's good to see you here. I love when you show up.
I'm happy to be here, man. I'm excited, man. I get to be next to royalty.
Oh, you mean him?
Yeah, both of them.
There you go. So what we're talking about, fentanyl, right? So I just want to take you on a tour of what I have in my bag here. There's a whole lot more here, as you can see. There's a lot of stuff. This here look like Xannies. They're blue. They call them Xanny bars.
They do look like Xanny.
So actually, I took this from a guy that overdosed twice in one day from these pills. The ambulance showed up, got him back to normal. They Narcaned him, and they left. 2 hours later, he decided, what the heck, and took the same pills from the same bottle and overdosed again, and had to be Narcaned back to life twice in one day.
And that's very common. That's a common occurrence. That's not out of the ordinary at all.
Crazy.
It is crazy.
The same freaking pills.
It is crazy.
And when we went to his house and pulled him out and put him in a rehab, he was looking for these to do it again. So that's that. These, again, look like Xanny bars. Person came into rehab, also was Narcan. Back to life. These are not real either. These are fentanyl. This kid I knew was selling these. The parents heard a clunk in his bedroom one night. They thought it was the dog. Literally. So they ran in there, and their son, which was 18 years old, was laying on the floor convulsing with foam coming out of his mouth. The father at that time had to make a decision. This is terrible. He knew the kid was overdosing. So he had to decide if in order to give his son mouth-to-mouth, CPR. He was afraid that if he did that, it might kill him too. But he did. Thank God, because it kept his heart beating long enough for the emergency 911 to get there. And they hit him with 4 hits of Narcan, 4 times, before it brought him back to life.
That's
4
scary.
times.
It's a lot of Narcan.
Yeah, it's a lot of Narcan. And you know what's scary is a lot of drug users don't have that much. So that means if they're in a house and somebody's dying and it's this, and they don't have enough, the kid's going to die.
That's true.
Obviously, this is where they smoke it. This here, you can see there's a syringe in there, a spoon where they cook it. It was thought to be heroin. It was found out to be, there's no heroin in it. It's fentanyl. So this here actually got it on Friday. This was a kid that came into rehab. He's actually checking in on today, but he's been on Oxy. And I said, I don't think there's any, where are you getting it? And he told me he's getting it from a dealer on the street. So he says, but he knows it's real. So I said, I'll bet you whatever you want to bet. If I test you, the only thing that'll show is fentanyl. because he doesn't use anything else. So what I want to do today is I'm going to test it right here. So I'm going to show you what kids are buying today on the streets, on the internet. I'm going to put some gloves on.
And you'll notice he's putting gloves on. It's anytime you handle fentanyl, you need to have some type of barrier there because it can, it can get on the skin.
So I'm going to pour a little water in here. Not a lot. I'm going to take one of these pills. If you can see what I'm doing here. If I can get it out, that'll be great. And put this in a safe place. I'm going to take this here. And we'll put the pill inside, right there. And now I'm going to crunch it. And then we're going to pour it into the water. Put it there for now. And we'll shake her up. Now this is supposed to be an M3. It's supposed to be oxy, right?
Mm.
Well, let's see what happens when we test it. We're going to do two tests. We're going to do a test to see if oxy shows up. This test is a 10-panel test.
Panel.
So it tests for everything but fentanyl. So we put it in there. We'll count to about 20. Now, when you test these things, these drugs, with this, 2 lines means that it's negative for whatever drug you're testing. 1 line means it's positive for that drug. If you can see here on this one, both lines are coming, which means it's negative for all those drugs, which is meth, opiates, oxy, that kind of stuff. If you turn it around, it's negative for everything. So if you were to come into a drug rehab and they just tested you for this, you'd be negative. So thinking he was taking oxy, obviously he's not. So let's get rid of this. This test is straight fentanyl test. It doesn't test for anything but fentanyl. So let's see how this thing pairs up now. Again, kid guaranteed me he was taking oxy. And he actually believed it. So we're going to dip it in here. Everything is a dip in these days. Drug tests, pregnancies, COVID. It's insane what's going on out there, huh? And we're waiting. So on this test, a little bit different. I'll show you. It shows positive for guess what? Fentanyl. So these M's, oxy, are not oxy whatsoever. You can't tell them apart, though. If you put them right next to a real one, it would be looking exactly like it. So that means...
But his drug dealer promised him it was oxy.
But you know what? A lot of times, and it's the same thing I told him, because he said, I trust my drug dealer. I don't know if you should ever trust a drug dealer. But a lot of drug dealers, they hear it from their people, too. It's real. There are no real drugs out there right now. The doctors are not writing them. And I think you guys know that. If you're in pain and you go to the ER, what are they going to give you now? if they give, because we take people to the ER all the time, we took this poor girl that was cramping in pain, remember? They gave her 3 Percocet, a prescription for 3 Percocet. That's it. So they're not writing prescriptions anymore. There is nowhere to get it. Since the pandemic came, the supply has been cut. It's gone. The demand is higher than ever before. So when you're going out there and you're buying these pills, you're flirting with death. It's like playing Russian roulette, guys, with 2 bullets. Not 1, 2. And every dope fiend that our drug addict that we're dealing with right now, 2 things is going on. If they're opiate addicts, they always know somebody, minimum of 1 to who knows how many people that lost their lives to their friends. Almost everybody we brought in the last 6 months has been Narcan, a minimum of once. True?
That's true.
And everyone that we bring in know that they're playing Russian roulette. They're afraid. They just don't know what shot, fix, smoke, or hit's going to kill them. So if we don't get our grip on this, man, if we don't figure this out, we're going to lose a whole lot more people. If you look at the graphs on how many overdoses, there were 111,000 in the last year, almost strictly from this stuff.
And that's just the ones that were reported.
That's exactly. Those are the ones that were accidental overdoses. So let's look at the pandemic for a second, okay? Let's say 111,000. That's the number of accidental overdoses, reported accidental overdoses. Let's add suicide to the deal. How many people do you think committed suicide either drunk, on drugs, or because of alcohol or drugs? That's at least double the 100,000. True?
True. I would say that's
at least, right?
At least.
Okay. How about attempted suicides? How about domestic violence? How about child abuse and child molestation? How about car accidents, car crashes? What do you think the real pandemic is today? Lance, we're not going to buy our way out of this, and we're not going to arrest our way out of it. The only thing we can do is educate our way out of this.
Yeah, educate our way out of us because no matter how well we secure our borders, it's always going to be able to get in. So if we can decrease the demand, and the supply problem goes away.
That's the only possibility right now, because there's so many thousands of these pills coming across the border and being made, and it's not just across the border. I had a dealer on one of the shows that actually was getting it through the mail and making his own pills here in this country. So it's possible that it can be homegrown anywhere. So it's kind of one of those kind of things, and we have to educate our children. We have to educate educators, and we need to. There's a bad message going out. I want to spend a minute on that. The message is heroin kills. Oh, hell. Everyone knows heroin kills. Or the message is fentanyl kills. Doesn't everybody know that? So if we're just teaching people fentanyl kills, heroin kills, what are we missing? Who wakes up in the morning and decides, I never used drugs before, but I think I'll shoot fentanyl today? It doesn't happen that way, does it?
No.
Almost all drug abuse starts innocently.
Starts with prescription pain medication. That's where it starts.
Well, there's 2 different kinds of addicts.
Most of it.
There's 2 different addicts that we deal with right now. We're dealing with what you call an accidental addict. Is what Lance is talking about. It's somebody that maybe went to the doctor, had a car accident, had surgery, had a prescription, and got addicted to the pills. Now, pain meds, muscle relaxers, and all that kind of stuff, they're terrific for pain for short periods of time. Anytime you get into any kind of long periods of time with those kind of meds, your body gets physically addicted and you get emotionally addicted. Meaning, okay, you've been out of surgery now for 6 months and you're still on pills and you decide, okay, I had enough, I'm going to stop. First thing that happens is you go through physical withdrawal. So now your brain is tricked to believe you still have pain. So you continue that prescription pill. It could go on for years, but it gets worse and worse and worse. So that's the accidental addict. The other addict is the one that we deal with a lot too, and probably more than ever in the beginning. And that's the one that, when we're young, we all have what I call contracts. When I grow up, I'll never. Remember those?
Yeah, whatever you say you'll never, that's guaranteed you are gonna.
Right. Or when I grew up, I want to be what'd you want to be when you were young?
Clinical director for Action.
And you did it. Congratulations. And before that, you were?
I wanted to actually be an attorney.
Yeah. And you ended up being a parole officer.
Parole agent.
So you've been working
good old California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation.
There you
Badge number 2161.
There you go. So, but people have what you call contracts. When I grew up, I want to be, a lawyer, but we change our mind and we end up being parole officers, and then we get really lucky and we become clinical director for Action Families.
No, if we really get lucky, we become the CEO of the rehabilitation center.
You want my title? I'll give it to you. But so we have these other contracts. When I grow up, I'll never. Usually, what do you all think the gateway drug is? I'll tell you. The gateway drug used to be cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
It's now vaping. The first contract that a child makes would be tobacco or nicotine. There's only two reasons why an adolescent would light up a cigarette. And I'll give them both to you real quick. Number one, to fit in, to be cool, peer pressure. Number two, it's a learned behavior from home. Mom, dad, brother, sister, someone at home is doing, do what I say, not what I do, does not work. It doesn't work. So what I'm telling parents these days is be to your child what you want your child to grow up and be. Do what you want your child to grow up and do.
That's right. More is caught than taught. And these elementary school kids are vaping.
Yeah, they are.
That's starting at that age. And, I blame cigarette manufacturers for this. It's slick marketing, all these candied flavors and stuff, It's terrible.
It's insane. So what happens is little Johnny decides he's going to hang out with these guys over here. It looks exciting and glamorous. He goes over there. People are starting to light up cigarettes. Says, hey, Johnny, you want a hit? And he says, no, because it's a commitment he made when he was young. He'll never do that. But he's there every day. He's getting desensitized. He comes home, dad smokes a cigarette. He goes to school, his friends are doing it. So one day, hey, Johnny, and he goes, what the heck? And he takes his first hit off of his cigarette. What did he do? He broke a contract that he made when he was in kindergarten, because they're teaching kids that now, that tobacco kills.
Mm-hmm.
So how does he clean that up? It's only tobacco. It's only a cigarette. It's only a vape. I'll never use pot. But he's still hanging out with all those cool kids. Hey, Johnny, want a hit? What is it? It's a little bit of marijuana. Oh, no, I'll never use drugs. What do you mean drugs? This is marijuana. It's legal. It grows. God put it there for us to smoke.
Yeah, it's natural.
So what's going on?
It's medicinal.
Yeah, there you go.
It cures cancer.
Oh, yeah, okay. So what's going on in Johnny's brain? He's getting what? Desensitized. And he's also getting what? Curious. So one day, he's with his friends. And again, he doesn't see the crisis coming. He doesn't see these kids having problems. He just sees them all having fun. So one day they're passing it around and he says, what the heck? And he takes his first hit. What did he just do? He broke another contract, but he did something even worse. He smoked something that made him feel different, made him feel good, and really made him part of a whole different group of kids. Now he's part of it. If he was shy, he's not shy anymore. Now it worked. It works for you at first. Drugs, at first, don't let anyone lie to you. At first, they work until they don't. So how does he clean up that one? It's only pot. I'll never use hard drugs. The problem today is, before we go on break, tell me one drug, Lance, that's not a hard drug today.
They're all hard drugs, including alcohol.
One of the worst. But it's not like it used to be. What's out there today? Crystal meth? Oxy? Not really. Fentanyl?
That's what's out there.
These kids are dabbing. If you don't know what that is, look it up. But I can tell you that edibles and vaping, the THC, that's up to 99 to 100% proof THC, we're actually putting people in psych wards for that now. They're going psychotic on us. I've been speaking to different programs throughout the country and police departments and psych hospitals, and they're all seeing the same thing. THC-induced psychosis. On that note, let's take a break. This is the Action Drug Rehab Hour on KHTS. Welcome to the Action Drug Rehab Hour here on KHTS. I'm Cary Quashen. I'm your host. I got Lance Curtis, the clinical director of Action, with me today. And we've been talking about fentanyl and for lots of reasons. The largest reason is there's just so many overdoses right now, and it's killing so many young people that we got to start talking about it. We can't sweep it under the rug anymore.
And economically, it's going to start to devastate municipalities. You know, all these. It's just it's expensive with all these first responders responding to all these overdoses. All these emergency room visits, and like you alluded to earlier, sometimes people will end up in the emergency room 2 to 3 times in the same day.
That's just crazy.
That's ludicrous. That's crazy.
But I've seen it over and over and over again.
Oh yeah.
I'll use less, or I'll take a half of it this time. No, it doesn't work like that.
It really doesn't work that way.
The DEA came out about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I don't remember exactly when. You can look it up though, and they say they are seeing, and they're going to see much more mass overdoses when it comes to fentanyl. Mass overdosing, meaning 3 or more at one time in the same location. So that's the fear right now. That's what's happening right now. And people have a false sense of safety because they have Narcan. But if everybody in the room is dying from the same drug, nobody can Narcan anybody.
That's true.
If you don't have enough Narcan, it's not going to work when it comes to fentanyl.
That's true.
So what's the solution? We're not going to arrest our way out of this. We can't buy our way out of this. What's the solution?
Really, we got to educate these youngsters at the elementary and junior high school levels. Has to start there. The parents have to start to become much more involved with their children. I think, Cary, you mentioned a few minutes ago during the break that parents are spending anywhere from 2 to 10 minutes with their children. You know, it's kind of ironic. You know, sometimes we'll go to the restaurant and we'll see families eating at the restaurant, and everybody's got their cell phone on, and no one's talking. It's like, can you put your phone down?
Mom's checking her Facebook to see how many likes she's got. Kids Snapchatting whoever, and dad's in space.
Oh, yeah, I got one of them addicted to TikTokers in my house, my wife.
I think everyone does. But you know what? This is a question to anyone that's got a child 12 years old and up. What do you think the last thing your 12-year-old does, or 13 or 14-year-old does before they go to sleep? Very last thing. I bet you, I can guarantee you 90% of you know the answer to this. They say goodnight to their friends on Snapchat, FaceTime, Instagram, but they're looking at them saying goodnight. What do you think the first thing your child does in the morning before they use the restroom? Pick up their phone and check their social media. Say good morning to their friends. Then they come out of their room, right? Say hi to mom and dad if they're there. And they go to school with who?
Their friends.
So let me think this through. So they go to sleep with their friends. They wake up with their friends. They go to school with their friends. Then they come home. And in most homes, if mom and dad are even living together, they're both at work. So who's waiting for them now? People say nobody. That's so far from true.
Their friends.
Their friends. Then you come home and little Johnny's there and the conversation goes like this. Hey, Johnny, how was your day? It was good. How was school? It was okay. Do you have any homework? I finished it. Are you hungry? I ate. And they go back into their room, and what are they doing?
With their friends.
So the average kid today, this is scary, I want you all to hear this, spends about 16 hours with their friends. About right? And for what I've been looking into for the last 3 years, 2 to 10 minutes with their parents. So if they're that connected with their friends, and they're that unconnected to their parents, who holds the strength? Who do they want to please now? More their friends than their parents. Used to be little Johnny was afraid to do something wrong because he didn't want to let his mom and dad down. Right now he doesn't want to let his friends down because that's where he's connected to. So if we want to change, we got to change everything. We got to get more connected with our children. We got to start talking to our children about substance abuse as soon as they can understand words. We got to hardwire them to believe in the truth that this is bad. We got to teach them that all drugs are bad, not just heroin and fentanyl, because remember, all drug abuse starts innocently. We got to educate doctors when people are in hospitals, when doctors are writing prescription pills about addiction. But even more now, as I think, and this is, I don't know how people are going to take this, but I think we got to allow doctors to even write more pain meds than they're allowed to write right now. Because what happened is they stopped writing, they're afraid, and fentanyl's taking over. So there are really people that are really in pain now. So I think the system is so mixed up, man, and so lost. We got a lot of work, Lance.
Sure, and if, out there, folks that are listening, if you know someone that has a problem with drugs or alcohol, please have them give us a call at Action Family Counseling. We'd love to work with them. Our mission is to save lives, and literally. We're falling behind in that mission because the drugs are just becoming a lot more prevalent than they were.
Yeah. Yep. So anyways, it's one of those kind of things we're not going to buy our way out of, but education is what I say is everything. So if you know somebody in trouble, please reach out, let them know what's going on, be there for them, and let them know you can help. And we're there for you at any time, 24 hours a day. I want to thank you for listening to the Action Hour here on KHTS. Until next week.